by coincidence, within about an hour and a half of Alistair Darling sitting down, having given his pre-budget report, there was another long-awaited economic statement, and it came across the Atlantic from the President-elect Barack Obama, who got up in Chicago to roll out his economics team, naming the key officials who will serve him, but also giving a sense of what he plans to do about the recession. So these two statements, in a way, acted as kind of twin set texts, if you like, giving an insight into what the British and American governments, incoming American government at least, plan to do with this shared situation. Now, it's not often you would even so much as mention Barack Obama in the same sentence as Alistair Darling. They're not really the same style of politician. I think the Chancellor, Alistair Darling, would be the first to admit he's not exactly one of life's charismatic orators like Obama. Nevertheless, there was something important, a similarity between them. And that is that they both have essentially the same shared analysis of the solution to this problem, which is to have a fiscal stimulus into the economy. You need to keep up demand, and that means either cutting taxes or somehow increasing government spending, even if it takes borrowing to do it. And the fact that they have this view in common has proved extremely useful. It's provided cover to the British Labour government. They're able to say, well, this is our idea, but it's a shared international consensus, shared even by probably the most popular politician in the world at the moment, the President-elect of the United States. What Obama is even just promising at this stage gives a kind of political cover to the Labour government, making legitimate actions they would take. The best example is what would have been the headline from the pre-budget report, had it not leaked in advance over the weekend, and that is the promise of Alistair Darling to raise the top rate of tax on those earning over £150,000 to 45%. It's a big increase. There was a time when that would have caused howls of protest. It amounts to the tearing up of what was one of the signature defining New Labour differences, that they would not raise income tax. And yet it's now happened. I think there's cover for that because Barack Obama, famously in the election campaign, went round saying that the bottom 95%, if you like, most Americans would not be threatened by any kind of tax increases. Their taxes would either stay the same or go down, thereby implying that the top 5% higher earners would pay more in tax. Well, now we have, from Alistair Darling, a commitment that the top 1 or 2% will pay more, and he can just turn around and say, if you think that's a problem, it's no different than what Obama promises for America. That makes it kind of legitimate and gives him and Labour some cover. And I think you may see this more and more in the coming months, that Obama moves and therefore makes it okay and safe for Labour to move in the same direction. On the similarity, the key point is this analysis that they do both believe in fiscal stimulus. Once you drill down into the detail of it, though, a rather interesting difference becomes apparent, and that is really in scale. It's not just that America's a bigger country than Britain, and therefore everything it's planning is bigger. It's quite clear that the scope for manoeuvre, but certainly the ambition of Obama is larger. What he says is that he's not just interested in some temporary quick fix, just a slight nibble on, say, sales tax, which would be equivalent to the cut in VAT that Alistair Darling announced, but rather he's planning on big infrastructural spending. He's saying we're going to repair the roads, the crumbling schools, and the infrastructure of the United States that has been left ignored for too long. Now, we didn't get a promise on that kind of scale from Alistair Darling, and that might be partly because Obama finds himself in a situation similar to Labour coming in 1997, following a centre-right or right-wing administration who had run down, if you like, the infrastructure. Obama is able to say, we're now going to spend big because this is something that's been long overdue. A leader or a chancellor for a Labour government can't quite say that because Labour's been in for 11 years doing all that stuff. So Obama's in a 97 situation and Alistair Darling very much is not. And that's why when it came to public infrastructure, he could really promise no more than to bring forward a paltry £3 billion worth of spending. Normally that wouldn't be paltry, but in today's climate that counts as a pretty small figure. So that was one big difference. The other difference I would really emphasize is the environmental tinge that Barack Obama really adds to every one of his economic messages. He says, for example, about the car companies, that they are not going to get a penny out of him, even though they want to bail out, unless they retool and essentially start making more fuel-efficient cars. If they're just going to churn out the same old gas guzzlers, he's not interested in giving them money. By contrast, there was Alistair Darling saying that, yes, there'll be a tiny increase on vehicle excise duty for the most polluting cars. It was going to be £90. Green Group said that was far too small when he announced that a while back. Now he says it's just going to be £30, and even that's not going to come in right away. There, by contrast, is Obama really preparing Americans for a completely different kind of automobile that is more fuel efficient, and also on all the infrastructural spending. He's talking about solar panels, he's talking about renewable energy. He is really approaching this recession as if it's inseparable from the challenge of climate change, and saying that what looks like a crisis in the economy is an opportunity to do work that needs to be done, weaning America off foreign oil and becoming energy independent and helping the environment into the bargain.